into the nutrition segment this morning. And today on the nutrition segment, we're going to be talking junk food. Now, we tackled the junk food a couple of weeks ago, and we're going to be looking at a part 2 of the junk food conversation. We're joined in the studio today by Ivan Salaman Adra. He's a registered dietitian and the CEO of Diet Med Consult. Ivan, you're welcome.
Thank you.
All right. So we started looking at junk food. Yeah. And junk food, what are the health hazards of junk food? I mean, I remember you were talking about the junk food being excess salt, excess sugar, excess fat. These are the typical, things around junk food. Of course, we know that all these things are not good for blood pressure issues and all these other things, imbalance of electrolytes and all these other things that they go. But just generally speaking, give it to us from your angle. Yeah.
Thank you. So once again, good morning, lovely viewers. Just like you have rightly mentioned, the junk food give us excess calories or energy to work, and then excess salt as well. We also get excess fat from them. They are completely lacking in vitamins and minerals and so on. And if you put that aside, also completely lacking in dietary fiber. As we saw the last time when we met. But then today, looking at the health hazards, one thing I want to establish is that if we look at how diseases develop, excess salt, excess fat, the absence of vitamins, minerals, and so on, they all play a role. Now, if we take the hazards that are associated with the intake of junk food, one of such is constipation.
Okay.
Of course, if you want to look at constipation, it is not only dietary fiber that helps, but dietary fiber has a role to play. What it does is that it has what we call hydrophilic heads, which helps to retain water so that the stool wouldn't be that hardened. Of course, we have to consider exercise as well, because that help in bowel movement and so on. So one danger associated with the intake of junk foods is actually constipation.
Okay.
If we move away from constipation, because of the excess calories that are coming from the sugars, it tends to make people get the energy in excess, that will set in motion storage.
Okay.
And where storage comes in, what happens actually is that people will gain weight, and that will make them overweight or obese, if we should look at it from that angle. And the moment an individual is obese or overweight, it sets in motion, I would say that it's like an incense that invites a lot of conditions. It's very, very important. Anybody who is overweight or who is obese is at the risk of all forms of cancers.
Wow.
Whether prostate cancer, breast cancer, cervical cancer, they are at risk of all these things. You want to look at urinary issues. In fact, obesity is a systemic disease. Your joints will be affected, so there's what you call arthritis. So painful sensations at the joint, whether at the knee joints, the ankle joint, at the wrist joints, and so on. People experience that. If you put that aside, cholesterol issues begin to set in. Now, the body has a storage compartment for anything in excess. So it will first of all store as sugar, glycogen. Then when glycogen stores are full, it begins to process fats. When the fat stores are full, cholesterol is the next energy molecule to be processed.
Yes, yeah.
Now, let's look at the way God has wired us. We have a lot of vessels. I mean, larger vessels, smaller vessels. They all don't have the same diameter. So as the vessel, cholesterol goes up, the vessels are going to be occluded, to be blocked. That will impede blood flow.
Okay.
And when blood flow is impeded, something actually happens. We learned from basic science that if volume is reduced, pressure will actually go up. And that is what actually results sometimes in the increase of blood pressure. There is also the tendency for some of the cholesterol deposits to rupture or fissure and become what we call an emboli. It will be moving in the blood. That can actually occlude vessels supplying the heart muscles.
So it rips off and is flowing in the bloodstream.
blood.
It can go and block.
Block, exactly.
And actually that's going to the heart,
To the heart,
or
to the
something,
brain,
yeah.
and so on. Now, blood actually contains nutrients and oxygen. Every cell in our body actually requires oxygen. The absence of oxygen will result in death of the cells. The brain cells, the cells of the muscle, and so on. So when there is blockage of any of these arteries, what happens is that the cells there will begin to die. So people can have what you call heart attack or cardiac arrest. There is what you call angina because of the fact that the heart and so on. So that is one thing. The stroke can actually come in. Likewise, the BP, blood pressure. If you are very huge, your heart has a lot of work to do, because it will have to make sure that every cell has its share of the nutrients and the oxygen. So the bigger or the fatter you are, the harder your heart will have to pump blood to every part of your body. Now, when we talk about obesity, sometimes excess sugar plays a role, because there's what we call osmosis. When the sugar level in the blood goes up, it tends to draw water into the blood vessels, and that is what will increase the blood volume. And that means that the heart has more fluid to pump. Likewise, if the levels of salt, which you call sodium, is also high, it also does the same thing. More water is extracted from the cells and the tissues into the blood vessels. Blood volume will go up, cardiac output will go up, and so on. This is what set in motion sometimes the condition for, or the conditions for hypertension. It's very, very important that we look at all this, so that from the word go, we start eating cautiously and consciously.
You know, there are various body types and systems, and there are those who pride themselves, to say that I can eat whatever I want to eat, but I won't put on weight. How dangerous is this?
Yes, you see, it is not only the weight I will want to talk about. Of course, people have high metabolic rate, so whatever calories they get, they are quick to burn everything out. But the truth is that it is not everything that is energy which can be burnt out in the case of sugar. But the excess salt is one thing we actually have to look at. Number two, if you look at the body weight, many things come together to form the weight of an individual. Fat is there, muscle is there, bone is there, and of course water is part of it. Now, the truth is that somebody can even be slim, of a normal weight, but the fat composition will go up. So the idea that if I am slim, it means everything is okay. It doesn't hold at all. You can have somebody who is slim, who will have muscle that is below the expected percentage, but the fat will actually be more than expected. So it is not the whole idea that, I have a body weight that is slim, I can burn everything. No, that idea actually doesn't hold. Now,
can you have somebody who is normal weight and yet their organs and the vessels are lined with fat, which is actually maybe posing them a great danger, but they look perfectly okay?
Exactly. We can have somebody of a normal weight, like you have said, and just as like I have said from the beginning, whose vessels are actually, because if there is, for the fat, we want to look at trans fat and saturated fat.
Yeah.
These are the fats that can actually block the blood vessels. And the trans fat and then the saturated, we get them from these junks, from our pastries, number one, and then if we can't put aside our beverages, we get them from all these sources. So the whole idea is that the person can be slim, but the vessels can be blocked. They can have cholesterol issues regardless of the weight. It is very, very important. So let us not, or let no one deceive him or herself that the person is of a normal weight, and so there is no problem. There can actually be a problem. And our whole issue here is that people don't go for, this health assessment. And what is rampant now is, a holistic assessment where people can check what is happening to their liver, their heart, their brains, and so on. But extensive body composition analysis to look at the level of fat, to look at the level of muscle, and so on. People don't actually go into that. But these are risk factors. I keep saying that if we should do our best to keep all these parameters within range, it will be difficult for diseases to set in. It's actually very, very important. Now, if we move away from the diseases I've spoken about, we can even go to the extent of talking about stress.
Okay.
The junks give the body stress. That is one thing. Now, what actually happens is that their intake result in the release of stress hormones. One is insulin. If you have excess sugar in the blood, the body must produce more insulin to get them into the cells and the tissues of the body. Now, when excess insulin is released, the body sees the excess insulin as danger. So it will close its door. It's just like you are in a room, and then you realize that thieves have, entered. The body will see, or you will see them as, danger. So you begin to lock up so that they wouldn't have a point of entry. That is how the body, every cell in our body has a door that must open for sugar to actually enter. So when the levels of insulin is high, the cells will close up. Meanwhile, according to the body's mechanism of operation, because there is a close-up, they may think that there is a resistance. So the body will be forced to produce more so that it can overcome the resistance that has been built up. And that alone will even go and worsen the situation. So that is one. And when there is excess production of insulin, insulin is anabolic hormone. It builds up fat and cholesterol. So whatever is in the blood will be converted into fat and cholesterol. That is the way to go. Then as time goes on, the cortisol will come in, and then the situation, when cortisol comes in, it's your abdominal region. So if there is more fat at the belly area, it means that more and more resistance is going to be posed to the metabolism of the sugar. And this is what people actually don't look at. So there is a lot of health hazards. And if you want to nail the disease so that it doesn't spring up, let us focus on eliminating these germs.
Let me ask you, it may be bordering on the size of medicine, but if, let's say, somebody is able to reverse the effects of junk food, so for example, you have a big belly and you're able to work on it, right, through diet, correct dieting, exercise, everything else, and you bring it back to normal and you now have a flat tummy, will that also reverse some of the conditions that may have been
perfectly, excellently?
Okay.
So a disease condition like diabetes, we know that in time past, the whole notion is that the moment you are diagnosed, you have to take this insulin injection and your medication till, forever and ever you are called to glory. But the truth is that when diet is modified, other lifestyles such as exercise is introduced, we have found a complete way of reversing the diabetes.
Okay.
Research is very consistent that for people who are overweight, obese, who have hypertension, if they can, be able to lose some of the weight, it will affect the blood pressure. The blood pressure will actually reduce. Okay. So it is possible, and I keep saying that, if we want to look at the treatment of diseases, let us look at the things that will cause the disease. Okay. Because for medical science, they look at the disease and what pharmacological or medicinal agent they can use to actually bring it down. But the truth is that these pharmacological agents, they mask or reduce or suppress just the signs and the symptoms. They don't address the root cause of the disease condition. So the right thing is that let us look at, you want to look at a case like diabetes. What is caused? It's excess sugar. Where is the sugar coming from? It's coming from food. Let's modify the food. And then the sugar going in will actually be reduced. That is the way to go. And if you are taking insulin, you are taking this anti-diabetic medication, yes, you will still be getting the sugar, just that it will continue to suppress the effects of them. So the right way, let's identify the risk factor, the cause. Let's modify it so that everything will conform to shape. So it's perfectly true that if you were overweight, you lose the weight. I've seen many people who came very fat and so couldn't walk, having one of these conditions. The moment treatment started, and then they started losing some of the weight. The BP was getting better, the sugar was getting better, the cholesterol was also getting better. So it's actually very, very true.
So if you've come to a stage where now you are so much overweight, okay, would you recommend surgery?
Yes, surgery, we have a lot of surgery. We have
Like
what
maybe
we
a
call,
liposuction?
yeah, bariatric surgery is actually there. But the truth is that in our parts of the world, here in Ghana, it is not very common. And even the cost that it comes with is very huge.
But
So
if and I can afford it?
if you can afford, why not?
Okay.
If you can afford, why not? But you see, the pain it comes with, the stress it comes with. If somebody undergoes surgery, it comes with other discomforts. You may be taking your painkillers and what have you, but you, the individual, you realize that you will not be at ease. You will not be comfortable. If you have a job, what will be happening? If you don't have trusted individuals to manage things for you, before you get restored and returns, things may be messed up. So we shouldn't wait. And who knows? Somebody may go through the surgery successfully, but another may not. So you don't have to wait till you get to that extent and then risk yourself or risk your life. So the surgery is there. You can be flown outside the country to have it and so on. But you want to look at the survival rate, the comfort it will come with, and so on. So let us not wait till we get to.
So I'm looking at I am there.
You are there, okay.
So it's not like
You
I
know.
am getting.
Okay.
Now you find yourself there. What and you are on that borderline.
Exactly.
What do you have to do? Is it about medication? Is it about, because maybe it's too late for you to now correct diet, you know, because you're already on the borderline. What happens?
Exactly. So the surgery may be, the American Heart Association has come out with a whole recommendation. If you are obese, you are of a BMI of these, you have other comorbidities such as diabetes, hypertension, and you can afford to undergo surgery, we do allow that the individual undergoes. And of course, whilst or before the surgery or after the surgery, proper attention will still have to be paid to the intakes of the individual.
All right, wonderful. Thank you very much. Evans, fantastic. How do people get in touch with you?
Okay, so on Facebook, Evans Adra. On Facebook, they can send friend requests and follow. I do send a lot of health information there. I'm also on TikTok, Evans Adra 175. They can also follow a lot of health tips there. Then on Saturdays, I'm with Doctors in Service Clinic from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. So if they come, they can get in touch with me. They can also call me on 0243 827612. 0243 827612.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. We'll be speaking with Evans Selame Adra. He is a registered dietitian and a CEO of Diet Med Consult. Get in touch with him to help fix some of the dietary challenges that you may be